All right. Hello, everybody. It says you are live. Happy Saturday. That's when we are creating this video, at least. So, whenever you are listening to it, I hope you're having a great day. My name is Sheila Williams. If you are seeing this, you are most likely in my Facebook group, so you have an idea who I am. But you may also be seeing this on YouTube. And as well, my co-host is Danay Novoa. So we're also on her YouTube channel. And we wanted to come on today because we haven't gone live in quite a while. I decided to go walkabout for basically all of March and have some adventures. And we have certainly been hearing from people that they are missing our conversations. So we thought today would be a great day to come on and talk about making shifts, making some changes. And one of the reasons why I was inspired to do this live is that Danay has recently taken it upon herself to challenge herself a bit, push herself outside of her comfort zone. And it's been really fun to be aware of her process, to see it as it's literally unfolding, and then to be able to see what happens after that. And just, I think it's really inspirational for people to know that it's okay when you are uncomfortable to take action. So, with my style of coaching, in case you don't know, I am an intuitive coach, but I am one of those coaches who doesn't believe that you need to push yourself really hard and force yourself. You know, if you fall off a horse, well, just get right back up. Sometimes maybe riding a horse isn't for you, and that gets to be okay. So, that's my personal philosophy. However, I do agree 100% that there can be value for you to understand, is it that I'm uncomfortable, or is that this just isn't for me? And to practice having that discernment of knowing, if I do this, what value will there be for me? It may be the knowledge that 100% that isn't, for me right now. Or it could be, wow, I did do that and I have such a great sense of accomplishment. When I was young, I was very scared of heights, and there was a lifeguard chair at the pool, and I would go sit up there and try to make myself jump off, and then I would just go right back down again because I couldn't make myself actually push off that ledge and drop. All I could do was anticipate that feeling of dropping, and it scared the pants off of me, or the swimsuit off of me. And one day I did finally just do it, and it was so much fun that I instantly got out of the pool and went back and did it again. So for me, that experience just taught me, hey, it's okay to do it in your time in a way that feels best for you. So I got to experience all of the self-doubt and anxiety and ridicule from my peers that I couldn't do it, and all of that. And that just helped shaped me to learn it was okay to do it in my time. And when I was ready, I thought it was the best thing ever. So that kind of set me on that path back when I was 7, 8 years old. So it's interesting now to find myself as a coach, encouraging people to find the timing that works best for them. So, hello to everyone who is popping on. You should be able to comment on whether you're on the Facebook group or in the YouTube. So, feel free to say hi. And if you let us know who you are, we can say hi back. And we have the ability with StreamYard to actually show comments. So, if there's a comment or a question that we want to put on the screen, we can do that. It's one reason why we like this platform. So, that being said, welcome to Danay. And yeah, this isn't the first time we've had a conversation, but I love this topic. So I'm really happy that we decided to do this today. So Danay, what do you want to tell our viewers about kind of the situation that presented itself for you? I'll just let you take it away and tell your own story.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, I have been feeling, for lack of a better word, I guess, stuck with my own stuff. I've been watching, people like you being adventurous, and in the past that's never impacted me. I've seen people do all sorts of adventures, and I'd be like, "Bye, have fun. I'm going to stay here." But recently, I've noticed that it has impacted me in a sense of I want to do that too. And you recently went on an adventure with whales that I was approached about, and I got too scared. I had too many anxieties around the trip. Um, but I did want to do it. I just couldn't get through the anxieties of it. And then you went off on a lovely cruise, and I thought I wanted to do that too, but then I was too scared, so I didn't do it. So what happened was, I think I got pushed enough, in a sense, through watching you and other people um, really seize the moment in life and grab these experiences. And it's whether you're like you, an adventurer, or like somebody else who's just wanting to do stuff where they are. I wasn't doing what I wanted to do. I love the work that I do, and I get very much, I have lots of fulfilling um, experiences around that. But there was a part of me going, I'm stuck here. It's cold. It's overcast. There was snow at the time. Like, and things have shifted in me to not want to be in this location anymore, at least for a chunk of time. And after I saw everybody posting about their experience and stuff like that, I said, I got to get out of here. I got to do something. But I was afraid. There's always fear about what could go wrong, or where will the money come, or any other anxieties that have presented themselves that I've always let win, essentially. Like, yeah, I've always talked myself out of doing the things that I want to do within reason. It was a big deal that I decided to start my own business. That was huge. So with this, I was like, okay, I'm not saying no to something else. I'm going to figure out how to say yes to something. And a mutual friend of ours had invited me to go and visit her, and she's in Miami Beach, and said, you can come, and the ocean is like literally steps away. And I was like, yes, I've been wanting to do that. But every time I've looked at flights or considered, I've backed away and convinced myself that it's not a good idea, that I should be using resources in other ways. But this time, the momentum around wanting to do things built up so much that those fears, while they were the same sort of vocalization and intensity, the desire to do it became much more stronger. And it happened to align that you were going to be there as well, which added more excitement to it. And I was excited to spend time with Amanda and go to the beach and see Miami and be in warmer weather, be in the sunshine. So I, with the support of other people, I worked through the anxieties around it, and I got a ticket and went on the trip. And I don't regret it for a second.
Nice. I love that you did that. And I think it's great to acknowledge that there was a process. There were a lot of different steps that need to be taken. And that's the thing with travel that I am getting more comfortable with myself, because you can have an idea of the where and the when, and then you do need to decide, okay, but what flights, and how do you get from the airport to the place you want to be, and what do you need to pack, because you don't want to overpack, but you don't want to forget things at home. And so I do completely understand that for many people, and I'll put myself in that list as well, sometimes those multiple decisions feel very overwhelming. And that's why so much of my coaching right now, I'm focusing on helping people have tools to pull out of their toolbox when things do feel overwhelming. Because when we feel overwhelmed, it's really hard to know any action to take. It's hard to get enough of a perspective to say, okay, well, what's the priority, and what can I deal with right now and treat as important, and maybe other things just aren't that important. But when you are right in that, it's really hard to get the perspective. And so I love that you say, you had some conversations, you had some support to help you just find more ease, find the perspective, so that you can say, all right, this is a good way to book a flight. And even that, I know some of the backstory, you're going online, and then you ended up calling. And by calling, you ended up getting even a better flight. So you allowed it to unfold in a way that just kept creating more and more ease. And that was absolutely brilliant in my perspective.
Yeah, and there's stuff around that I think is important to share with um, the anxiety that I have the experience of. And I mean, we've done a live uh, 6 months or so ago about the anxiety that I experience and how it has an interesting sort of way of appearing. And I've been finding lately that it's just been much more vocal. And I think it's just because I haven't been doing the things I've wanted to. I've been doing the things that I feel have been out of obligation, and I haven't um, changed my environment. So with the flight booking, I originally, a previous version of me would have been more comfortable calling in and talking to somebody and booking something. But then I kept thinking, well, I'm pretty sure there are fees associated with that. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to just book it online, and we've talked about that. And these steps for the most part are pretty easy for people, but it's like envisioning when you have anxiety, it's envisioning somebody else standing beside you as you're doing things and then just highlighting all the possible ways that things could go wrong while you're doing it. Are you sure you want to do that? Is that okay? Is that going to create an issue? And that's just your own internal voice talking while you're not comfortable or confident in trusting your decisions. So it was important for me to play with this experience. But one of the things that seemed silly but actually propelled things in the direction that it went was I have a little points card with that airline, but it's never accepted it every time I've booked a flight. So in the past flights, I would say, okay, fine, I don't care, I'll just book and I won't get the points. But this time I couldn't let it go. Like I gripped onto it and I said, no, I need those points. And it had nothing to do with the points, but I was on this journey of what I wanted and to stop, facing things just because they provoked a little bit of fear or a nuisance in me. So I got on the phone to call the airline with the point system, and had that sorted out, and then redeemed one of the flights from before. But then they propelled me because I had asked a question about sales that was for a specific location, not where I am. I said, are there sales that are available where I am, kind of thing? And they said, well, we have to contact the sales department. And immediately I think, well, now I'm going to incur more charges because you have to pay to talk to people now, apparently. But this is just how my mind was sorting things out. And they put me on with this lovely person, and he talks me through everything. And he says, oh, we found a direct flight to Fort Lauderdale. And I was like, okay, but what does that cost? And then he tells me the cost of the entire trip, which I then interpret as the one way. And I went, oh no, that's too high. He goes, oh no, it's for the whole thing. And I went, okay, that's more reasonable. But then I had to figure out, well, how do I get from Fort Lauderdale to Miami Beach? And in comes the Sheila voice, which just says, oh, it'll be easy. You just have to take a train, or you can take an Uber or a Lyft, and I'm just sitting there going, that's just more money. It's like, it's interesting to hear these voices. So I ended up going outside of my comfort zone for most of the trip. I spoke to someone on the phone and I said, whatever it incurs the cost of, it didn't, but whatever it incurs the cost of, I'm going to be okay with that. I'm going to, go on the trip. I got a ride to the airport from here with a friend, but I ended up taking a Lyft from Fort Lauderdale to Miami Beach because it rained a lot. And I was told that it doesn't rain torrential downpours when it's not hurricane season in Florida. But apparently the snow wanted to follow me. It just melted along the way. But yes, it was uncharacteristic levels of rain. But rather than trying to navigate a train and a bus or whatever, and without a rain jacket, because I didn't listen to my intuition of bringing a rain jacket, I then said, okay, I will just buckle down and say the lift will be worth it for, to pay for that ride. And it made things a lot more smoother. I got to Miami Beach quicker. And then I ended up doing a lift back to the airport when I left and back home. So there's a lot of interesting stories that kind of led into me having to make decisions. And rather than picking what I would usually do, I would pick the new, which I think was important.
Well, I think that that's really a place to highlight. So first of all, welcome to everyone who's watching now. Really appreciate all the comments. It's not telling us who you are, it just says Facebook user. So in case you do want us to know who you are, feel free just to drop in a comment with your name. But really happy to have you join us. We're talking about how Danay allowed herself to go out of her comfort zone and take a trip recently. And so
well, we've got an animal who wants to contribute to the conversation. So, but yeah, Sheila, you're not muted. There you go. For those just joining the party, we've been talking about me going outside of my comfort zone, making a shift towards doing things that I don't typically do. And then the dog, and wonderful Wally, decided to chime in with his interpretation of my experience going to Miami Beach.
That was pretty funny. Yes. So he's actually been super good. But today it's a beautiful sunny day here. Of course, it's Saturday. People are walking by with their dogs. And he wants to be really vocal. And he is a doxy, 100%, making sure that we are safe here. And Liz, I guess that was you too. So I'm happy that you confirmed that. So yes, I love him dearly. And normally he doesn't bark, but today it's been one of those days. So as soon as we're done here, I think we'll go outside and we'll let him run around a bit and get some of that energy moving. So back to where we were talking, what I think is so important is that Danay allowed herself to feel that it's a time to make some shifts because she wants something different. I'm just going to say she right now instead of you, but because I have gone through this myself, I love the fact when people are really aware of this type of process. When you think, I do want something different. And I've never known how to get that, or maybe I have, but it hasn't worked out, or it doesn't matter what that history is, because so often we're looking back. But to come now to this present moment and say, okay, I know that to do something different might not feel comfortable, but I am more curious to see what the outcome is than fearful. It's that tipping point, right? And so often when and whether we want to call it fear or apprehension or nervous or anxiety, they're all kind of wrapped up in their own little area. But often when we check in, it's bigger, and so we back off and we say no, not now, or not this time, or not this choice. And that's okay, because that's our guidance system. It's so important to follow your guidance system. However, I think it also offers so much value to keep checking in, because there will be a time, just as Danay found with her trip, that might still have been there. However, the tipping point was more on the side of, I want this, or I want to see how it works out, or I'm curious about how it feels. And so she kept encouraging herself. I would normally do this, so I am going to do something different, because I know I want something different. And at least that's my perspective. And again, that's what I've experienced for myself. And so it was a really fun coincidence that I was there at the same time. I was just getting back from a cruise, and I had booked to stay an extra few days before coming back to Canada. So it was really fun to be there in person, to see her just keep, instead of A, choosing B. All right, I'm looking at my choices, and I'm going to choose something different because I want to see what happens. And it was really fun to be there and to celebrate right with you, and to see, of course you've always been capable, you've done all kinds of great things in your life, but just in these moments it had felt a little bit harder, and you're like, I'm doing it anyway, I'm doing this instead. And so I love that you brought that up.
Yeah, for sure. And one of the things that I want to note is, a lot of people look at those who are coaches of various forms and they say, well, they must have their life together. And it's important to note that we are all on this journey doing something. And one of the things that I want to do, and I know that you're aligned with this, is embody, the characteristics that we talk about: empowerment, making shifts in ourselves, and showing others through demonstration that you can have a life you desire. You can shift your perspective and create new attitudes around things. And having anxiety or having fears or having whatever doesn't make you less of a person or capable of doing something. Everybody's got fears around something. The idea is what you choose to do with it in any moment. And a lot of the times I was choosing to let it win. And it's been around since I've been a child. And it would come up in a variety of ways. I got a PhD, even though I was riddled with anxiety every day. It took a little longer, but I still got it done. So I understand. And this time I wanted to choose something that wasn't me saying, yes, okay, anxiety, you win this time. So it was uncomfortable, but it was a lot of fun. And there are little things that poke up and say, well, it would just be easier to sit back and let the fear win. And if you choose that, that's fine. But one day you're going to get pushed to a point where you're not going to choose that anymore. And I could go right back to choosing that where I am now. And I didn't need to go to Miami Beach, but why I went was because I wanted the opportunity to be near the ocean, watch the sunrise, and that's all that I was focused on. So I did that.
I really like the fact that you brought up the point of you didn't need to go. And sometimes it's hard to realize that we can feel something different without big actions, without big spending money, anything like that. But sometimes it's easier to do that because it gives you a new physical environment. It does push you outside of your comfort zone, even with spending the money. And not that it always needs to cost a lot of money, and you don't want to put yourself in an uncomfortable place so that you can't pay your bills. But sometimes, people will say, to get some skin in the game or to put your money where your mouth is sometimes it actually does feel better, because it's almost committing to yourself and making a bold gesture that says, I do choose this, and I'm worth spending some money on. And so again, to find the balance that's right for you, it doesn't have to be a big thing, but sometimes it's almost that grand gesture for yourself of saying, I want this to be a big, grand adventure. And, it was like 5 days in Miami Beach. For some people, that would be no big deal. But for you, it helped tick so many boxes of planning the travel on your own, getting it all arranged, going from cold weather to warm weather to being near that ocean that you really were craving. I had been sending pictures of the sunrise, and I remember you saying, like, I want to do that. I said, well, just come, just hop on a plane. And so I love that you allowed yourself to have the grand adventure, because you made so much of it by going to the beach and playing in the water and spending the time and watching the sunsets. And you really gave yourself so many wonderful experiences by doing that. And I think that is absolutely fantastic.
And it was around restorative experiences.
Yeah.
A lot of us have been through a lot of challenges in the past 5 years with all sorts of things. And I wasn't giving myself the opportunity to rest. I mean, sure, I can stay in bed a little longer or veg out and binge watch a bunch of shows, but I wasn't doing the things that light me up. And I wasn't giving myself permission to do it because there are challenges associated with running your own business that you feel like you have to devote all of your time to it. And I was doing great with the business and still am, and excited about things that are coming together. But I was very tired, and I would get off calls and I would just be like, I don't want to do anything. I got back here feeling different. The second that I got to Miami Beach, or the second that like the traveling was happening, I felt like myself again. I didn't have the same sort of cloud covering or fog that was around me, that just had to do with the fact that I was putting all of my energy in other people, which is great because that's what I'm here to do. But I wasn't putting any energy into myself and what I wanted. So that trip was necessary. And I looked at other locations, but nothing was making me light up more than Miami Beach. And it was just because of the ocean and the warmth. Like, I was looking at other destinations and nothing kept saying, like, everything kept saying, no, you're going to the beach. And I, at some points, would be like, well, it'd just be easier if I stayed here. It would just be easier if I stayed here, and then I wouldn't have to worry about anything. I wouldn't have to pack. I wouldn't have to go through the anxieties of all the trip administrative stuff and the packing. And but I kept thinking that if I don't go, how disappointed I was going to be. So I just said, go for it and see what happens.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And when you got back, when we had a conversation, I really appreciated that you were saying, okay, I am back now. I don't want to just kind of go back to my old routines. I want to keep this light, feeling, this vitality, this energy, this positive outlook. And that was really impressive to me too, because I've done the same thing sometimes, of wanting to hold on to that essence of when I did have a trip or a new experience, to know that I want to incorporate that into my new life, like to create an actual new life from bringing in these new kind of puzzle pieces. And so that was, I think, wonderful. And are you open to talking briefly about kind of what happened the first day? Was that your second day, maybe?
Yeah,
When you're
well,
like, yeah, I'm eating salads now, and I'm going to go to bed earlier, and I'm so committed to this great new lifestyle. And you got a little womp womp womp.
Yeah. I mean, shit's gonna happen. Like,
it does.
It's inevitable. Well, I think it's interesting to note about the travel back first, and then I'll talk about the incident that happened, or that I was aware of afterwards. When I was coming back, and I had booked flights, because of anxiety, I ended up booking a flight that had a ridiculous layover. And not as ridiculous as the first one that I was going to do, that happened to be resolved by talking to somebody. But I wanted to make sure that going through customs and all that, because it had been a while since I've traveled to the US, that I thought, I want to have more than enough time, rather than, feel like I'm being rushed. Mm-hmm. And so I had booked a flight that had almost 3 hours of a layover. And I thought, okay, well, I'll just sit and hang out. But everything went so smoothly after the first flight that 20 minutes passed, and I'm already at the next gate going, I've got 2.5 hours. I expected all of that stuff to take an hour. So then I thought, okay, then I've got an hour and a half, and sure, I'll just chill and hang out and take my time, maybe grab lunch in the airport somewhere or whatever. But sitting at the gate, and then I try to find like a little off corner, and I'm like, it's so loud. And I was like, I got up to go to the desk to ask the people there, if there was a quieter place for me to sit somewhere in the airport, because I've got 2.5 hours. But then the lady looks at me and says, you want an earlier flight? And everything in me said, no. because that's the original decision. I had picked a flight. That's what I was committed to. And I couldn't put into words. I was just trying to say quieter place, and she, like a lounge or something. She goes, not worth the money. She goes, the flight that's boarding now has plenty of space. I've put you on that flight. And I'm sitting here going, that's boarding now. It's like, and she goes, yeah, it's just down the hall. Like, go to that gate. They already know you're coming. And I'm sitting there going, okay. So I turn right around, and then I'm like, well, I should pee before the plane. The lineup, there was a lineup at that bathroom. So I was so baffled. So without thinking, I just said to every woman in line, my flight is boarding now. They've just moved me to this flight. Can I hop ahead of you? And they all said yes. I was like, great. So I thanked them all. I went to the bathroom, and then I came out. And by the time I got to the gate, which wasn't that far away, they were then boarding my zone. So I hopped in and sat down, and I went, I don't know what time this flight lands because someone is scheduled to pick me up. They ended up having a meeting, so I had to go outside of my comfort zone again. And I was going to sit in the airport and wait. And Miss Sheila Williams told me not to.
I don't think I verbally did, but I hope I did in your head, because I love being a budgeter. I love being economical, but I do believe that time is worth money. Like your time, every single person, your time is worth money. And so, for instance, when I did land in Fort Lauderdale, the time, because it was, her plane was super early, everything about your travel actually went very efficiently and early. The train was going to be an hour later. So rather than sitting and waiting for an hour and a half to take an hour train ride and then would still need to come in from the Miami airport, you took a 40-minute Lyft ride. To have done anything different than that would have boggled my mind. So of course you could make whatever decision you want, but that would not have made any sense to me. And I'm so happy, not that you need my approval, but I'm really happy that you independently did decide to just take the Lyft and go right to the door of where you were staying. And then same thing with this, for you to sit around so that someone can come to pick you up at the airport, as opposed to just drive there. And then I would hope take her out to lunch for driving you in the first place. That's what I would have done, the second piece. So maybe someone that I won't name is going to expect a lunch soon, because that would be a really nice thing to do.
Well, yeah, she's in the Caymans, so she'll drive me for my next flight. But that's the thing, going with how I would have done things previously, which I still may do in the future. It's what causes. So one of the things that we've talked about in our communities and stuff is like, go with what feels the better feeling thing. I did not do that.
Yeah.
The better feeling thing would have been the easier thing. Wait in the airport until somebody can get you, or take the train, even though it's like double the time by the time I'll get to, that location. It just felt easier in the sense of like not causing me additional anxiety to go to the train station, take it to the airport, and then somebody else gets me. Because before, I don't know where you grab a Lyft or an Uber. I have not ordered a Lyft or an Uber ride before. This is outside of my comfort zone. It's in a different country. It's a different currency. I then was incurring roaming charges and sitting there going, oh my God. But these are the things that my mind thinks of while I'm going through the process. So then saying like, okay, I get it. I'm doing something new. So I was deliberately picking things outside of my comfort zone. Because yes, I had a Sheila voice in my head going, oh, that's just a waste of time. So, but yeah, it was hilarious, because by the time I got home and was in the middle of a walk, because I like to walk all the time, I then got the notification that it was time to board my other flight that I would have originally been on. So I took the flight, got home, put my stuff down, and then went for a walk. in all that time that I would have been sitting there waiting at the airport.
Yeah. Beautiful. I'm so glad that you did.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about the kind of your incident that happened? So you're back home. You had an amazing, smooth, efficient, faster than you could have ever expected travel experience, and definitely better than you expected, because you really tried to fight it every step of the way to have it be that easy and smooth. But you did allow it, and you created it. And then what happened?
So
Just the
one of
short
the things,
version.
so one of the things that we were doing was we got a tendency to eat salads, and I thought, I want to eat better, so I'm going to get salads. But then I thought, what other things am I putting off? So I said, all of the things that I'm putting off, given that I've kind of got this sort of restored feeling, at least to the capacity that I could have within those days, I thought, okay, I'm going to do something else. So the following day, made a plan that after I had breakfast, I was going to head to a different location to complete an errand that I had been putting off. Not an important thing, but something that I thought, this will contribute to the new things that I don't originally do, because it's just easier not to do things. So I go to get into my car, and something tells me to go and do a circle check around the car. And I typically do deliberately grab and put my bag in the passenger side seat and then go back to the driver's side seat. But this time I was just going to get in the driver's side and just go on my way. But something said, do the circulation. And when I did, I hop around the passenger side and I see scratches door to door on the passenger side of my car. And out loud, in my head and out loud, I said, what happened? So I'm like, then, okay, how do I typically respond to this? I would have called, the office. I live in an apartment complex. I would have immediately tried to figure out who had wronged me in some capacity. And then I took pictures. So I took pictures of the scratches and all those things, and trying to stay calm, because originally this would be something that creates a response in me, because I like my car very, very much, and it is something that I rely on.
He loves her car.
I do. And my response was then to reach out to Sheila and say, well, what's the approach? I've not had something like this happen before, so I don't know what the appropriate approach is. And Sheila's not here, so she's like, I can only tell so much from pictures, so it'll be easier if you have somebody who's there who can tell. And immediately the anxiety party came into play, whereas I'm not capable of doing this. I need support. I know somebody that used to be a former police officer, so I called him and I said, can you come check things out and see? I happened to run into the people who parked beside me, who then denied that they were involved in any of it. And I removed myself as quickly as I could from that situation. But it was just flooding me with anxiety around the fact that I was like, what the hell? Like, I had made all of this effort to get over fears and anxieties, do this trip. I'm supposed to be good now. And I come back, and I like the way you word it, got a smack in the face.
Big wet fish.
Of something else. And then I thought, well, fuck. Pardon
your French.
Yes, pardon my French. I was then, what's the point? So it set me back for that afternoon. And then I, tried again the next day to approach it in a lighter way. Ended up having my friend come up and check the car, and he said, I happen to be very lucky. You can see the markings, but there's no obvious sort of damage to it, and I can just buff it out if I need to buff it out. But so that was a huge relief to me, in a sense that I do have anxieties around the car and want to make sure that the car is okay. So it was interesting to come out of an experience where I was like, okay, I'm going to make differences now. I'm going to choose differently. And then life says, okay, well, choose differently here. So
Well,
I like
it is funny, isn't it? Because, and why I love that we can talk about this story is it's very fresh. This just happened literally
yeah,
a couple days ago. And again, because I get to be a bit of that third party observer, because you sometimes reach out to me or update me. It was so impressive to me how you handled that entire situation. And you may still not have enough perspective to really be giving yourself the praise and kudos that you deserve, because I can feel from my perspective, all the way across the other side of Canada, but through the vibration of it, how much steadier you were. And even in the moment you were saying, normally I would have kind of been angry or flipped out about this. And you do love your car more than anybody I know. So for most people, just to see the whole side of their car scratched, would create a very strong reaction. But this is your baby. So you really were very calm, very steady. And it was more a matter of, what are the logical steps to do here? Because in this type of incident, there are steps to follow, and there's kind of better and worse ways to do it. And it was completely understandable that you were saying, okay, so what is my next step? And I don't have a lot of experience, so all I could do is give you my perspective, and then guide you to find someone else who maybe can help a bit more. So that was all I could do. But you were rock steady ultimately. And I do believe it's because you allowed yourself to have that rejuvenation of your trip and to have everything, every success that you did build from that trip. And you found the answer sooner, and you found that sense of relief sooner, and you got to the other side of it really quickly. And I think people who have, just emotions, like let's just say human emotions, you don't have to even label it as anxiety or anything else. We can often get in our head and spin for days or months or years about a topic, right? And none of it's necessarily helpful. It's just, it feels hard to get yourself out of those thought loops. And that's how I used to live all the time, is my thoughts were constantly going and spinning, and conversations that I thought I could have or whatever. None of it was productive. None of it was useful for me. None of it felt good for me. So that might have been somewhere that you might have been prone to go and start spinning, but it felt to me like you kind of nipped it in the bud. As you let it go, you just kept letting it go. I don't want to do anything about it right now. There's nothing to do right now. Okay, now there's time to take a bit of action. Okay, now that's done. And now I can let it go again. So I'm sure that it didn't feel comfortable for you, but I didn't get the sense that you were spinning and kind of going down about it. You just kept dipping in. Okay, that's all I need to do right now, dipping out again. So does that feel accurate in some ways?
Yeah. So that it brings up an interesting topic of letting go. A lot of people are like, you let go of something and that's it. And I'm like, it's not. Because we have a tendency to circulate through things on a regular basis. Even if we're not intending to do so, we're going to have thoughts pop up in our mind. And I had to let it go repeatedly. I had to tune in and let go repeatedly. But one of the interesting things is, again, previous versions of me would have been stuck on the justice around things.
Yeah,
Sure. Whoever hurt my car hurt me and needed to pay. That was my old mentality, and not in a vindictive or revengeful kind of way. It was just restoring order in the universe. I used to be pegged, if somebody does something wrong, there needs to be a resolution or redemption of sorts. And that was very much ingrained in me growing up, in a sense that if I ever did something wrong, then I needed to make sure that I was doing what I can to redeem myself on that. So anytime I felt bad about something, I was doing that. And that's not what popped up around the car. Like, I immediately felt wounded because the car is a big part of it. It's an attachment that I have. There are certain things that we have an attachment to, and you know, it threatened one of my attachment areas. So because that happened, you know, I could have spun back into that version of me that said, you know, whoever hurt me needs to, it needs to be justified, or justice needs to be restored.
Justice. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, all that thing. But all I kept thinking of is, I don't want to deal with the hassle of creating a confrontation, of creating any energy around it. I just want things to be okay. Yeah. So I kept moving back into, well, somebody was like, well, you can take them to claims court, small claims court. And I was like, I don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to do these things because I don't have the mentality that someone's wronged me. I got hit in an area that is very sensitive to me. I have a few of those areas, as we all do. And rather than respond in a way that it needs to be fixed, or that person needs to fix it or pay for it, it was like, what's going to make me feel easy? Like, what's going to make me feel better, but it's going to be the easiest approach, and it isn't going to cause me a lot of anxiety, which is kind of the flip to what I did with going to Florida, because Florida, I was picking the things that deliberately made me uncomfortable. This time I was picking, what do I want to do, which essentially is run away from everything and pretend it didn't happen. So I found some middle ground. Yep. And I faced things as much as I needed to, but I wasn't going to go above and beyond and say, like, I need to create this whole drama out of something because, you know, someone hurt me. You know, it was an incident that was unfortunate. There wasn't cooperative components on the human side of things. And I just said, is it worth it to try to create some drama around? And I said, no. So.
Well, I love that you brought that up, because I think it brings us full circle to where we started with my story of jumping off the lifeguard chair, of allowing it to be what feels better for you. Because when I did push myself off, I still wasn't really comfortable, but it felt like the right decision in that moment. And so you are simply navigating your guidance when you let yourself say yes to this, no to that, because you are continuing to check in. And that's, I think, the brilliance of your recent experiences, of just knowing what feels better for me. And when does this, because ultimately you might say, well, I chose what felt harder, but it was still what felt better in the moment to have the challenge. And this time you're saying, I don't want the drama. I don't see the end result of that feeling better for me. And so I don't think it's that you're running away or trying to pretend it didn't happen, but it's okay to find that place of what feels better for you, to know that the car is actually okay. And it doesn't need to be anything more, because that doesn't feel better for you. So there's so much of this that I think is helpful. And I do think that this has been for your greatest benefit, to show you, oh, look, I am different. I have handled this differently. I do feel steadier about it. And maybe in this moment you're thinking, yeah, but maybe not that steady, Sheila. But I think as you continue to have more days to give you the perspective, you're going to really, really see that you've been a rock star about it, like literally solid as a rock, because it's where you are now because of the experiences and that you've allowed yourself to have, all throughout, but most especially in the last couple of weeks. So fantastic. Yeah. Well done.
Thank you. And I think it was an important conversation to have, because people see what we do with the work that we do, but it's important that we face our own challenges as well, and exactly. That we go through the processes of letting go of things and moving through things. And It's important that people see this, because everybody's got a story, and everybody's moving through things. So
it is. It's so good. All right. So we're going to wrap this up. Thank you to everyone who has watched. If you watched the whole thing, or if you've been coming and going, really appreciate seeing the comments and the support coming through. We're on 3 different platforms, so we can go back afterwards and reply to any comments or questions that came through. If you're not aware, Danay and I are hosting 2 in-person retreats this coming June in Ontario, Canada, and it's all about rejuvenation, reviving your spirit. We are so excited about who is saying yes to this experience, and we welcome new people to come on in. We'll put the links in, and if you're not familiar already, we have another information session coming up, but you can get tons of information now, or you can book a call to chat with us. Really excited about that. And I'm also hosting an Attitude of Gratitude challenge for all of April, where I am going to hold myself accountable and invite anyone else who wants to come in to be in the appreciation. So every day, taking the time to appreciate the experiences, the people, everything that is involved in my life. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So if you want to participate in that, head on over to my Facebook group, The Magical Life Coaching with Sheila Williams. Again, you can find links if you want to DM me or go and look at my Facebook profile. Everything's right there. And if you're not really onto the Facebook group thing, I have a WhatsApp chat that we're going to keep separate. Just not everybody does Facebook. So maybe you're watching this on YouTube and you're thinking, yeah, that's not for you. Well, we do have the WhatsApp chat. So just message me and I can add you to that. So thank you, Danay. I just, again, kudos to you. I am so happy for you that you are giving yourself these opportunities and these experiences. And it will definitely enhance your coaching because people know who you are and that you are such a real person, and you lived what you offer them as well. So I really appreciate you sharing that with us.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, lots of fun. Okay, so have a fantastic weekend, everybody, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. Until then, have a great day.
Take care, everyone.